Get on the ground now. Get down. The officer's scream shattered the quiet hum of the diner. A man in a hoodie held his hands up, calm and compliant, his eyes deadly serious. He wasn't scared. He was calculating. The officer, Bryce Harlan, thought he was taking down a low-level thug. He thought he was cleaning up the streets, but he had no idea that the man he was shoving against the counter wasn't a criminal. He was the highest-ranking FBI field operative in the state, wiretapped and surrounded by a surveillance team watching every single move. Moments later, Harlan's career would not just be over. He would be wishing he had never put on the badge. This is the story of how arrogance met the ultimate authority. It was raining in South Philadelphia. The rain hammered against the grease-stained windows of Mickey's all-day breakfast, a joint that smelled of burnt bacon and stale cigarettes. It was the kind of place where people went when they did not want to be found. Sitting in booth 4, nursing a black coffee that had gone cold, was a man the locals knew as T-Bone. He wore a faded, oversized hoodie, distressed jeans, and Timberlands that had seen better days. To the casual observer, he looked like just another guy trying to scrape a living on the corners. But his name was not T-Bone. It was Special Agent Marcus Vale. Marcus was a legend at the Bureau, with a background in organized crime, a law degree from Georgetown, and a closure rate that made other agents sweat. Today, however, he was not a lawyer or an agent. He was the bait. "Us," Marcus murmured, his lips barely moving. The microphone taped to his chest beneath the hoodie picked up the vibration. "We have visual," a voice crackled in his invisible earpiece. It was Special Agent Lena Ross, stationed in a surveillance van 2 blocks over. "Target is close. Remember, Vale, we need him to explicitly offer the weapons. Don't jump the gun. I know the play." "Lena," Marcus replied, his eyes scanning the street. He was waiting for Victor Russo, a mid-level enforcer for the Moretti crime family. Russo was paranoid, dangerous, and the key to a RICO case the FBI had been building. If this meeting went south, years of work would evaporate. Marcus adjusted his posture, slouching lower, transforming his body language from confident Fed to nervous street hustler. The bell above the door jingled. Marcus tensed, but it was not Russo. 2 uniformed police officers swaggered in, shaking the rain off their heavy coats. The diner went silent. The waitress, a kindly older woman named Layla, froze while pouring coffee. Officer Bryce Harlan was a man who took up too much space. He was broad-shouldered, red-faced, and had a reputation that preceded him. He was known in the precinct as a stats guy, someone who pumped up his arrest numbers by sweeping up anyone who looked at him wrong. Trailing behind him was Officer Claire Thorne, a rookie who looked like she was barely out of the academy. She looked nervous, her eyes darting around the diner. "Just coffee, Bryce?" Thorne asked, her voice quiet. "Yeah, and maybe a little peace and quiet," Harlan grunted. He scanned the room, his gaze passing over the old man eating soup, the couple arguing in the corner, and landing squarely on Marcus. Marcus felt the weight of the stare. "Don't engage," he told himself. "Russo is close. If a squad car is parked out front, Russo walks. If Russo walks, the case dies." Marcus pulled his phone out, pretending to text. "Lena," Marcus whispered, barely audible. "Russo is here." Through the window, Marcus saw a black Mercedes slow down. Victor Russo was looking at the diner. He saw the squad car. He saw the uniform standing over Marcus. The Mercedes did not stop. It accelerated and disappeared around the corner. The meat was burned. The case was compromised. Marcus felt a cold, hard anger settle in his stomach. He slowly stood up. "You just made a mistake, officer." "Is that a threat?" Harlan unclipped his radio. "We got a resisting, requesting backup." "I'm not resisting," Marcus said, raising his hand slowly, palms open. "But I am telling you, you are interfering with a federal operation." Harlan blinked, then burst out laughing. "Federal operation? Look at you. You're a bum." Turn around. Hands behind your back. Listen to me, Marcus said, his voice dropping to that command tone he used in the interrogation room. My name is Special Agent Marcus Vale. My badge is in my back pocket. If you touch me, you are assaulting a federal officer. Harlan hesitated for a split second. The confidence in Marcus's voice was jarring, but Harlan's ego was too big to reverse course in front of his rookie partner and the diner patrons. He had already committed. Yeah, and I'm the King of England, Harlan spat. He grabbed Marcus's wrist and twisted it violently behind his back. The click of the handcuffs echoed through the diner. You're under arrest for disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, and impersonating an officer, Harlan announced, shoving Marcus toward the door. Marcus did not fight back. He knew the surveillance team was recording everything. Audio, video. Every word Harlan said was a nail in his own coffin. Lena, Marcus said clearly into the air, knowing the mic would pick it up. Let him take me in. Do not intervene yet. I want him to book me. I want the paper trail complete. Copy that, Vale. Lena's voice came back, sounding furious. We are trailing the vehicle. The assistant special agent in charge is being notified. You hang tight. Harlan shoved Marcus out into the rain and slammed him against the hood of the cruiser. Who you talking to? You crazy or something? I'm talking to the people who are about to ruin your life, Marcus said, staring at his reflection in the wet metal. The ride to the precinct was tense. Officer Thorne was driving, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. She kept glancing in the rearview mirror at Marcus, who sat perfectly still in the back, staring out the window. Bryce, Thorne whispered. He really didn't fight back. He was compliant. And that thing he said about being an agent... Shut up, Thorne, Harlan snapped from the passenger seat. He was scrolling through his phone, looking bored. They all say stuff. I know the mayor. I'm a lawyer. I'm an agent. It's all noise. He's a street guy with a bag of cash he can't explain. We book him. We seize the cash. We get a commendation. But the bag, Thorne pressed. If it is money, shouldn't we call it in? We'll count it at the station, Harlan said sharply. Don't be so by the book. This is the real world. Marcus listened, memorizing every word. He knew exactly what Harlan was planning. Civil asset forfeiture. They would seize the cash, claim it was drug money, and it would disappear into the precinct's discretionary fund or Harlan's pocket. They pulled into the precinct sallyport. The heavy steel doors rolled down behind them, sealing them in. Harlan yanked Marcus out of the car. Welcome to the Hilton. Let's get you processed. They walked him through the bustling station. Phones were ringing, drunks were singing in the holding cells, and tired detectives were typing reports. Harlan paraded Marcus through the bullpen, a trophy on display. What you got there, Bryce? Shouted Sergeant Owen Brody, a desk sergeant with a coffee stain on his tie. Another wannabe tough guy. Harlan laughed. Claims he's FBI. Can you believe the nerve? A few officers chuckled. Marcus remained silent. His eyes were scanning the room, noting the exits, the cameras, the chain of command. He needed to time this perfectly. They reached the booking desk. Harlan slammed the duffel bag onto the counter. He unzipped it. The sight of the stacked $100 bills silenced the room nearby. Whoa, Sergeant Brody whistled. That's a lot of cheddar. Drug money, Harlan declared. Found it on him. No explanation. I told you the explanation, Marcus said calmly. It is government property. Serial numbers are recorded. Harlan leaned into Marcus's face, his breath smelling of onions. You don't have a badge, buddy. You don't have ID. Check my back pocket, Marcus said. Like I told you at the diner. Harlan smirked. He reached into Marcus's back pocket and pulled out a leather wallet. He flipped it open. The smile froze on his face. It was not a standard fake ID. It was a heavy gold badge with the eagle crest. Next to it was a laminate card. United States Department of Justice for Federal Bureau of Investigation. Special Agent Marcus Vale. Harlan stared at it. He looked at the photo, then at Marcus. The photo was younger, clean-shaven, but it was undeniably him. "Where'd you buy this?" Harlan scoffed, though his voice wavered slightly. "Canal Street. It's a good fake." "Run the badge number," Marcus challenged. "Run it through NCIC. Do it now." Sergeant Brody looked nervous. "Bryce, maybe you should run it." "It's fake," Harlan shouted, slamming the wallet down. "He's playing you. He's trying to scare you." "I'm not trying to scare you," Marcus said, his voice dropping to a terrifyingly low register. "I'm giving you a chance to mitigate the damage. Right now, you are looking at kidnapping and obstruction of justice. If you put me in that cell, you add false imprisonment. If you touch that money, you add theft of federal property." Harlan's face turned a deep shade of crimson. He felt his authority slipping. The rookie Thorne was backing away, looking terrified. "Put him in the cell," Harlan ordered the booking officer. "Bryce?" "I don't know," the booking officer stammered. "I said put him in the holding cell," Harlan screamed, grabbing Marcus by the collar. At that moment, the phone at the sergeant's desk rang. It was not the normal ring. It was the red line, the direct line from the captain's office. Sergeant Brody picked it up. "Desk, Brody." He listened for a moment. His face went pale. He stood up straight, his eyes locking onto Marcus. "Yes, sir." "He's right here, sir." Brody swallowed hard. He held the phone out toward Harlan, but he was looking at Marcus with pure fear. "Harlan," Brody said, his voice trembling. "It's the captain. He wants to know why the special agent in charge of the FBI Philadelphia field office just called him screaming about an agent being held hostage." The room went deathly silent. Even the drunks in the cell seemed to stop making noise. Harlan looked at the phone as if it were a bomb. He looked at Marcus. Marcus smiled for the first time. It was not a nice smile. "Answer the phone, officer. Tell him what you found in my pocket." Officer Bryce Harlan stood frozen, the phone receiver feeling like a lead weight in his hand. The captain's voice was audible even from a distance, a tiny screaming stream of profanity that seemed to vibrate through the plastic. "Put him on." "Captain," Harlan roared through the line. "Put Agent Vale on the phone now, you imbecile, before the DOJ brings a tank through my front door." Harlan lowered the phone, his face a mask of stubborn denial. He looked at Sergeant Brody, then at the terrified rookie Thorne, and finally at Marcus Vale. "He's got to you too," Harlan muttered, shaking his head. "This guy is good. He tricked the captain." "Bryce," Sergeant Brody said, his voice pleading. "Give him the phone. Unlock the cuffs. This is not a joke." "It's a trick," Harlan shouted, slamming the receiver down, cutting off the captain. "I know a perp when I see one. The badge is fake. The call is a spoof. We are processing him." Marcus sighed. "You just hung up on your captain. That's insubordination on top of the felony charges. You're really going for the high score." "Shut up." Harlan reached for his taser again. "Officer Harlan," Marcus said, his voice suddenly sharp, cutting through the humidity of the room. "Check the time." Harlan frowned. "What?" "I said check the time." "So what?" "Standard FBI extraction protocol for a compromised undercover agent in a hostile environment," Marcus said calmly. "You might want to look out the window," Harlan scoffed. He walked over to the reinforced glass window that looked out onto the street. He expected to see rain, traffic, maybe a pedestrian or two. Instead, he saw a wall of black steel. 4 black Chevrolet Suburbans had mounted the curb, blocking the precinct's exit. Behind them, a mobile command center truck was idling, but it was what was happening on the sidewalk that stopped Harlan's heart. Men and women in full tactical gear, navy blue body armor with bold yellow letters reading FBI, were swarming the entrance. They moved with a fluid, terrifying precision that made the precinct's patrol officers look like mall security. They were not knocking. They were stacking up. "What the hell?" Harlan whispered. Crash. The double doors of the precinct lobby flew open with such force they banged against the walls. Federal agents. Nobody move. Hands where we can see them. The shout was unified, loud, and absolute. Chaos erupted in the bullpen. Officers scrambled to stand up, spilling coffee, dropping paperwork. Some instinctively reached for their holsters, only to freeze when they saw the sheer number of carbines pointed at the ceiling. Leading the charge was a man in a sharp gray suit wearing a windbreaker over it that said FBI, AS, AC. He was tall, with silver hair and eyes that looked like they could cut glass. This was Assistant Special Agent in Charge Elias Reynolds. Behind him were members of the FBI SWAT team. "Who is the watch commander?" Reynolds barked, his voice echoing off the tile floors. Sergeant Brody raised a trembling hand. "I am, sir." Sergeant Brody, Reynolds said, stepping forward, his team fanning out to secure the room. "You have a federal agent in custody. His name is Vale. I want him released immediately, and I want the officer who arrested him to step forward." Bryce Harlan turned from the window. He was pale, but his arrogance was a deep-rooted thing. He walked down the short hallway from the booking area to the bullpen, pushing past the gate. "I'm Officer Harlan," he announced, trying to puff out his chest. "And I don't care who you are. This is my precinct. You don't come in here waving guns around. That man is a suspect in a robbery investigation." Reynolds looked at Harlan with an expression of pure disgust. He did not yell. He walked right up to Harlan, entering his personal space. "Officer Harlan," Reynolds said quietly, "you have seconds to hand me the keys to those handcuffs, or I will have you on the floor in front of your peer. 1. Harlan looked around. His fellow officers were looking down, stepping away from him. Even Thorne had retreated to the far corner near the vending machines. He was alone. 2. Reynolds counted. Harlan reached into his belt with a shaking hand and pulled out the key ring. He slammed them into Reynolds' hand. "Fine. Take your buddy, but I'm filing a formal complaint." Reynolds ignored him. He walked past Harlan to the booking desk where Marcus was waiting. Reynolds unlocked the cuffs. Marcus rubbed his wrists, grimacing. "You okay, Vale?" Reynolds asked. "Shoulders a little stiff." "He wrenched it pretty good," Marcus said, rotating his arm. "Did you secure the perimeter?" "Perimeter is secure. Russo is in the wind, though. We lost him when the arrest went down," Reynolds said, clearly unhappy. "Not necessarily," Marcus said, looking at Harlan. "We might have lost the battle, but I think we just found a bigger war." Marcus turned to face Harlan. The dynamic in the room had shifted entirely. Marcus was no longer the suspect. He was the predator. "Officer Harlan," Marcus said, "I'm taking command of this booking area. We need to have a chat in the box now." "You can't interrogate me," Harlan sputtered. "I have union rights. I want my rep." "This is not an administrative hearing, Bryce," Marcus said, using his first name with chilling familiarity. "This is a federal criminal detainment. You have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it. Get him in the room." 2 SWAT agents grabbed Harlan by the arms. He did not fight this time. He let them drag him into Interrogation Room 1, the same room where he had terrified countless suspects over the years. Interrogation Room 1 was a cold, windowless box with a steel table and 3 chairs. The mirror on the wall was one-way glass, and Harlan knew exactly who was behind it. Reynolds, the captain, and probably a federal prosecutor. Harlan sat on the far side of the table, his arms crossed. He was trying to look defiant, but his leg was bouncing nervously under the table. Marcus walked in. He had ditched the oversized hoodie. He was now wearing a Kevlar vest over his t-shirt with his badge clipped to the front. He carried a thick file folder and a laptop. He sat down opposite Harlan and did not say a word. He opened the laptop. He opened the file. He arranged 3 pens in a perfect line. The silence stretched. It was an old cop trick. Make them wait. Make them sweat. Harlan knew it, but it was working anyway. "You got nothing," Harlan finally blurted out. "I made a mistake on the ID." "So what?" "Qualified immunity. I acted in good faith." Marcus looked up, his eyes weary. "Good faith? Is that what you call it?" He fit the description. Harlan insisted. "Tall, black male, hoodie, robbery suspect." "Which robbery?" Marcus asked. "The one on 8th Street. There was no robbery on 8th Street," Marcus said flatly. "We pulled the dispatch logs. No robberies reported in that sector. Must have been a radio call." Harlan lied. Marcus tapped a key on his laptop. He spun the screen around. "This is the footage from your body camera," Marcus said. "And this," he pointed to another window on the screen, "is the footage from the surveillance team that was watching me." On the screen, the diner scene played out. "Now," Marcus said, leaning forward, "here is the twist, Bryce. And it is the reason you are sitting in that chair and not just getting a slap on the wrist for being a racist jerk." Marcus paused for effect. "I was not in that diner to catch Victor Russo for racketeering," Marcus revealed. "Well, not just for that." Harlan frowned. "What are you talking about?" "We have been investigating the Moretti crime family, and for a long time, every time we got close to a key member, they slipped away. Every time we set up a buy, a patrol car would coincidentally show up and spook them. Every time we planned a raid, the location was clean." Harlan stopped bouncing his leg. "We realized," Marcus continued, his voice dropping lower, "that the Morettis had a guardian angel, someone inside the precinct, someone who would create diversions, someone who would accidentally bust up federal operations to let the targets escape." Harlan's face went gray. "We set up the meet at the diner today not to catch Russo," Marcus said, delivering the blow. "But to catch you." Harlan slammed his hand on the table. "That's a lie. I did not know Russo was there. I just saw a bum in a booth." "Did you?" Marcus pointed to the screen. "Let's watch the tape again. You enter. You look at me. You look at the window. You see Russo's Mercedes approaching. You do not look surprised. You look at your watch, and then immediately you engage me. Coincidence, is it?" Marcus pulled a piece of paper from the file. "We subpoenaed your bank records. Cayman Islands." "Really? It is a bit cliché, is it not?" Harlan stopped breathing. "Shell company Blue Shield Consulting receives monthly deposits," Marcus read. "Deposits originating from a construction firm owned by the Moretti family." "You can't prove that's me," Harlan whispered. "We have the IP logs used to access the account. Marcus said they trace back to your home Wi-Fi and your phone." Marcus closed the file. The sound was like a gunshot in the small room. "You are not just a bad cop, Harlan. You are a mole. You work for the mob. And today, you were so eager to protect your payroll that you arrested a federal agent on camera, assaulted him, and tried to steal marked federal funds." Marcus stood up and walked to the door. He put his hand on the handle and looked back. "I told you outside," Marcus said. "I'm the guy who is going to ruin your life. But honestly, Bryce, you ruined it yourself. The charges are racketeering, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, assault on a federal officer, and deprivation of rights under color of law. You are looking at serious time." Harlan sat slumped in the chair. The fight completely drained out of him. The arrogant bully who had walked into the diner was gone. All that was left was a criminal who had just realized he had been playing checkers while the FBI was playing four-dimensional chess. Marcus opened the door. "Agent Ross, he's all yours. Process him." As Marcus walked out of the interrogation room, the bullpen was silent. The other officers, including the rookie Thorne, watched him pass. There was no hostility in their eyes anymore. Only fear and a dawning realization that the culture of their precinct was about to be burned to the ground. But the story was not over. As Marcus reached the lobby, ASAC, Elias Reynolds was waiting for him. "Good work in there," Reynolds said. "Harlan is the first domino, but he is not the last." "I know," Marcus said, looking back at the precinct. He was too comfortable. He did not act alone. The sergeant at the desk, he let it happen. "The captain, he has been looking the other way. We have warrants for the captain's office and home," Reynolds said. "We are tearing this place apart." "What about the rookie?" Marcus asked. "Thorne. She is green," Reynolds said, "but she was complicit. She stood by." "She was scared," Marcus corrected. "But fear is not an excuse. Bring her in for questioning. If she flips on the captain, maybe we cut her a deal. If she protects the blue wall, she goes down with the ship." Marcus walked out into the rain. The air felt cleaner now. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by the dull ache in his shoulder where Harlan had twisted it. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He had a missed call. It was from Victor Russo. Marcus stared at the screen. Why would the target be calling him? He answered. "Yeah, T-Bone." Russo's voice was smooth, amused. Or should I say, Agent Vale. Marcus froze on the steps of the precinct. "Russo, I saw the show at the diner," Russo laughed. "Very dramatic. I assume Harlan is in cuffs." "He is good," Russo said. "He was getting greedy, asking for a raise. I figured it was cheaper to let you guys take out the trash for me." The blood ran cold in Marcus's veins. "You set him up," Marcus realized. "You knew I was a Fed." "I suspected," Russo said. "So I sent Harlan in to test the waters. If he arrested you, I knew you were nobody. If the FBI swarmed the place, well, then I knew you were the real deal. Thanks for the confirmation, Agent. Now I know who to avoid." The line went dead. Marcus lowered the phone. The rain soaked his face. The twist wasn't just that Harlan was dirty. The twist was that the mobster had played them all. Russo had sacrificed his own mole just to confirm Marcus's identity. Marcus looked at the phone, then back at the precinct where the FBI was hauling out boxes of evidence. "Reynolds!" Marcus shouted, turning back. "We have a problem." The rain had stopped, but the atmosphere inside the FBI Mobile Command Center was electric. The screens on the wall displayed a web of connections, bank accounts, phone records, and surveillance photos. At the center of it all was Victor Russo's face. Marcus sat on a folding chair, an ice pack pressed against his shoulder. He was replaying the phone call in his head. "I figured it was cheaper to let you guys take out the trash for me." "He played us, Reynolds," Marcus said, his voice low. Russo knew Harlan was a liability. He knew Harlan was getting sloppy, greedy, so he used me as the executioner. We did not catch a break. We caught a discard, a sacrifice. Reynolds nodded grimly. "We got a dirty cop off the street. That is a win. But Russo is in the wind." "Not yet," Marcus said. "Russo is arrogant. He called me to gloat. That means he feels safe. He thinks he has time." Meanwhile, in the holding cell of the precinct, the reality of hard karma was crashing down on Bryce Harlan. The cell was cold. His belt and shoelaces had been taken. The man who had walked around the precinct like a king was now huddled in the corner listening to the murmurs of the federal agents tearing his desk apart outside. The heavy steel door buzzed open. Harlan looked up, hope flashing in his eyes. "My lawyer? Is my lawyer here?" A man in a sharp, expensive suit walked in. It was not the police union rep Harlan expected. It was Victor Sterling, a high-priced criminal defense attorney known for representing clients like the Moretti family. "Mr. Sterling," Harlan scrambled to his feet. "Thank God. You got to get me out of here. The feds, they have the bank records. They know about the payments." Sterling did not sit down. He stood by the bars looking at Harlan with the same expression one might use when looking at a dead rat. "Sit down, Bryce," Sterling said smoothly. "I can't sit down. I'm looking at serious time," Harlan shouted, sweat beading on his forehead. You need to call Russo. Tell him I kept my mouth shut. Tell him I need bail money. I need the family to step up." Sterling sighed and checked his gold watch. "The family is stepping up, Bryce. They are paying for my time right now to come here and give you a very specific message." "What message?" "The message is goodbye." Harlan froze. "What?" "You became a liability," Sterling said, his voice devoid of emotion. "You drew too much attention. You harassed civilians. You got sloppy with the deposits. And today, attacking a federal agent on camera, that is bad for business. Mr. Russo has no use for a soldier who cannot follow orders." "I did it for him," Harlan screamed. "I protected him, and you were paid," Sterling countered. "The transaction is complete. You are on your own, Bryce. If you mention Mr. Russo's name to the feds, well, you know the reach of the family. Prisons are dangerous places. Accidents happen in the showers every day." Sterling turned to leave. "Wait, you can't leave me," Harlan wailed, grabbing the bars. "Don't call us, Mr. Harlan," Sterling said, the door buzzing open for him. "We certainly will not be calling you." The door slammed shut. Harlan stood in the silence. The weight of it crushed him. He had sold his badge, his honor, and his country for money, thinking he was part of the family. Now, he realized he was just a tool, a disposable pawn. The anger that rose in him was not the hot rage of a bully anymore. It was the cold, desperate fury of a man with nothing left to lose. "God!" Harlan screamed, his voice cracking. "Get me Vale. Get me the agent." Marcus walked back into the interrogation room. This time, he did not bring a file. He brought a cup of coffee and placed it on the table. Harlan looked like he had aged years in the last hour. He was trembling. "You were right," Harlan whispered, staring at the coffee. "They cut me loose. Sterling came. He threatened me." "I told you," Marcus said, sitting down. "To them, you are just the trash. So, are you going to let them flush you, or are you going to be a cop for one last time in your miserable life?" Harlan looked up. There were tears in his eyes. "I want a deal. Witness protection for me and my wife." "I cannot promise witness protection," Marcus said honestly. "But I can promise that if you give me Russo right now, I will speak to the U.S. attorney. I will tell them you cooperated. It could knock time off your sentence, and we will put you in a federal facility where the Morettis cannot touch you." Harlan swallowed hard. He nodded. "He is leaving," Harlan said. "He has a private hangar at the Northeast Philadelphia airport. Hangar 4B. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "What time?" "Flight plan is filed. He is going to a non-extradition country." Marcus checked his watch. "You better be right, Bryce," Marcus said, standing up. "Because if we go there and the hangar is empty, I am putting you in general population at Rikers." "It is real," Harlan said. "It is a Gulfstream G65. O-tail number N774RF. He keeps his emergency reserves there. Gold, cash. He is clearing out." Marcus burst out of the room. "Reynolds, gear up. We are going to the airfield." The convoy of FBI Suburbans tore down the highway. Lights and sirens cutting through the night. "Status." Marcus shouted into his radio as he drove. "Air traffic control confirms a flight plan filed for a Gulfstream G65. Oh, departing." Lena's voice came over the comms. "It is on the tarmac now. Engines are spooling up." "Block the runway," Reynolds ordered from the lead vehicle. "Do not let that bird fly." They crashed through the chain-link perimeter fence of the private airfield, tires screeching on the asphalt. In the distance, under the harsh glare of floodlights, the sleek white jet was already moving. The whine of its turbines was a deafening scream. "He is taxiing!" Marcus yelled. "Intercept! Intercept!" The FBI-built vehicles fanned out, racing parallel to the jet. The plane was huge and it was gaining speed. Marcus saw the door of the hangar. It was open. Several black SUVs were parked there, abandoned. Russo was already on board. "This is the FBI!" Reynolds' voice boomed over the PA system of the lead truck. "Cut your engines now!" The pilot ignored the command. The jet accelerated. "He is going to take off," Lena shouted. "Not today." Marcus gritted his teeth. Marcus swerved his SUV, braking formation. He drove straight onto the runway, directly into the path of the oncoming jet. "Vale, what are you doing?" Reynolds screamed over the radio. "Get out of the way." "He will not hit me," Marcus said, gripping the wheel. "He needs the lift speed. If he hits me, he crashes and burns." It was a game of chicken. A 3-ton SUV versus a 30-ton jet. The jet roared closer. The lights were blinding. The noise was earth-shattering. Yards, yards, yards. At the last possible second, the jet's nose dipped. The pilot slammed the reverse thrusters and hammered the brakes. The tires smoked and screeched, leaving long black skid marks on the tarmac. The plane swerved violently to the right, its wingtip missing Marcus's SUV by inches before the landing gear collapsed. The jet skidded off the runway and plowed into the muddy grass, coming to a halt with a groan of twisting metal. Silence fell over the airfield for a heartbeat. Then the doors of the FBI vehicles flew open. Move, move, move. Marcus was the first one out, weapon drawn. He sprinted across the wet grass toward the crippled jet. The emergency slide had not deployed. The main door was jammed. "Open it," Marcus yelled to the SWAT team. A breach charge was slapped onto the door. Boom! The door fell away. Marcus and the team stormed the plane. Inside, the cabin was pure luxury. Leather seats, crystal decanters, gold trim, but it was chaos. Luggage had flown everywhere. At the back of the cabin, Victor Russo was trying to scramble out of an emergency exit, clutching a briefcase. He looked back at Bryce, his eyes wide with shock. He was not the smooth, arrogant voice on the phone anymore. He was a trapped rat. "Do not move." Marcus aimed his Glock at Russo's chest. Russo froze. He looked at the gun, then at the briefcase, then at Marcus. "You are making a mistake, Agent." Russo panted, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. "There is $5 million in this case. It is yours. Just let me walk. Nobody has to know." Marcus stepped forward, his boots crunching on broken glass. "You think this is about money?" Marcus asked, his voice steady. "This is about the oath, something you and Harlan never understood." $5 million? Russo pleaded. 10. I have accounts. You have the right to remain silent, Marcus said, grabbing Russo by the lapels of his expensive Italian suit and slamming him against the bulkhead. "I suggest you start practicing." As the SWAT team cuffed Russo and dragged him off the plane, Marcus spotted something on the floor. It was Russo's phone. Marcus picked it up. He saw a text message notification on the lock screen. It was from Victor Sterling. Text: "The cop has been neutralized. He will not talk. Have a safe flight." Marcus smiled grimly. The lawyer had lied to Russo too. There was no honor among thieves. The entire corrupt empire was built on lies. And tonight, the truth had finally come to collect its debt. Marcus walked out of the plane and onto the tarmac. The cool night air hit his face. Reynolds was there watching Russo get shoved into a transport van. "Nice driving, Vale," Reynolds said, though he looked like he wanted to strangle him. "You are crazy." "It worked," Marcus shrugged. "We got the books," Lena called out from the cargo hold of the plane. "Ledgers, hard drives, everything. This does not just take down Russo. This takes down the whole East Coast operation." Marcus looked up at the sky. It was over. But he knew there was one last thing to do. He had to go back to the precinct. He had to look Harlan in the eye one last time. The holding cell in the basement of the James A. Byrne United States Courthouse smelled of bleach and old fear. For years, Bryce Harlan had been the one shoving men into cells like this. He had been the one laughing as the heavy steel doors clanged shut, making jokes about hotel accommodations and checkout times. Now, he was the one sitting on the cold metal bench, his wrists chafed by the shackles that bound him to his waist. He looked at his reflection in the polished steel of the toilet unit. The man staring back was a stranger. He had lost weight. The ruddy, arrogant complexion of a cop who ate too many free donuts and drank too much confiscated beer was gone, replaced by the pasty gray pallor of a man who had not seen direct sunlight in days. "Harlan!" a U.S. Marshal barked, rapping his baton against the bars. "Showtime!" Harlan stood up, his legs shaking. He shuffled forward, the chains clinking with a sound that seemed deafening in the silence. This was the hard karma he had laughed about when he was wearing the badge. Now, it was a physical weight, dragging him toward judgment. Upstairs, Courtroom 9 was a pressure cooker. The air conditioning was fighting a losing battle against the body heat of people. The press had dubbed it the Blue Shield trial, and it had become a national spectacle. Every seat was filled, reporters with their laptops open, community activists, families of people Harlan had falsely arrested over the years, and a sea of grim-faced police officers in dress blues who had come to see the rot cut out of their department. In the front row, Special Agent Marcus Vale sat straight as a rod. He was not wearing his undercover hoodie today. He was in his full dress uniform, his gold badge gleaming under the courtroom lights. Next to him sat Claire Thorne. She was not a rookie anymore. The fear that had defined her in the diner was gone, replaced by a quiet, steely resolve. She wore her uniform with a new kind of dignity, the kind that comes from choosing the hard truth over the easy lie. "All rise." The bailiff's voice boomed. The Honorable Judge Elena Harrison swept into the room, her black robes billowing. Harrison was known as the Hammer, a federal judge who had zero patience for corruption. She took her seat, her eyes scanning the room before landing heavily on the defense table. There were 3 defendants separated by empty chairs and armed marshals. On the left was Bryce Harlan looking like a ghost. On the right was Victor Sterling, the high-priced lawyer who had tried to broker the deal. And in the center, an empty chair represented Victor Russo. "We are here for sentencing," Judge Harrison said, her voice amplified by the microphone cutting through the murmurs of the crowd. "The jury has spoken. The evidence is irrefutable. Now it is time to balance the scales." The prosecution stood first. The U.S. attorney, a sharp woman named Lena Vance, did not mince words. "Your Honor," she began, pointing a finger at Harlan, "this man did not just break the law. He wore the law as a disguise. He turned the badge of the Philadelphia Police Department into a license to steal, intimidate, and destroy. He kidnapped a federal agent. He conspired with organized crime. He betrayed every citizen who ever called 911 expecting help. The government requests the maximum sentence." She turned to Victor Sterling. "And Mr. Sterling, a man sworn to uphold the Constitution, who instead used his law license to launder blood money for the Moretti crime family. He attempted to sell out his own client to save his own skin, a level of cowardice that is frankly breathtaking." Sterling tried to stand, his face red. "Your Honor, I was coerced. I was acting under duress from Mr. Russo." "Sit down, Mr. Sterling," Judge Harrison snapped. "The court has read the transcripts of your text messages. You were not coerced. You were negotiating a commission." The courtroom erupted in laughter, but it was a dark, angry sound. Sterling sank back into his chair, defeated. The judge turned her attention to Harlan. "Mr. Harlan, before I pass sentence, do you have anything to say?" Harlan stood up slowly. The marshals held his arms. He looked around the room. He saw the faces of the people he had hurt. He saw the other cops looking at him with disgust. Finally, his eyes locked on Marcus Vale. "Months ago, Harlan had sneered at Marcus, calling him a bum, twisting his arm, laughing at his claims of being an agent. Now, Marcus was the only man in the room looking at him with anything approaching understanding. Not pity, understanding. Harlan's voice cracked. He cleared his throat. I thought I was part of something, the Brotherhood. I thought if I protected the guys with money, they would protect me. I was wrong. I sold my soul for a monthly envelope. He looked down at the table. I'm sorry. That is all. I'm just sorry. It was the first honest thing Bryce Harlan had said in years. Judge Harrison nodded slowly. She adjusted her glasses and picked up a sheet of paper. Mr. Harlan, your apology is noted, but apologies do not restore the years stolen from the innocent men you framed. Apologies do not rebuild the trust this city has lost in its police force. You wanted to play the big man on the street. You wanted to be above the law. The judge leaned forward, her voice dropping to a terrifying whisper. Well, Mr. Harlan, the law has a very long memory. On the charges of racketeering, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, assault on a federal officer, and deprivation of civil rights under color of law, I sentence you to a long term in a federal correctional institution. A gasp sucked the air out of the room. Harlan's knees buckled. He would be an old man when he walked out. His life was effectively over. Furthermore, the judge continued, relentless. You are stripped of your pension. Your assets, including the home purchased with illicit funds, are seized. You leave this courtroom with nothing but the jumpsuit on your back. The judge then turned to Sterling. Victor Sterling, for your role as the architect of this money laundering scheme, you are sentenced to a long term and permanently disbarred. The Bar Association has already been notified. And finally, the judge looked at the empty chair. Victor Russo, though he is not present, let the record show he has entered a guilty plea to avoid the death penalty. He has been transferred this morning to ADX Florence, the Supermax in Colorado. He will spend the rest of his natural life in solitary confinement. His empire is dismantled. His assets are frozen. The Moretti family is finished. The gavel came down. Bang! The sound echoed like a thunderclap, signaling the end of an era. As the marshals hauled Harlan away, he did not fight. He did not scream. He looked broken. As he passed the railing where the agent sat, he stopped for a split second. He looked at Marcus. You were right, Harlan whispered, his voice raspy. That is all it took. Marcus nodded. Goodbye, Bryce. Harlan was dragged out the side door, the chains rattling a final mournful tune. Outside the courthouse, the scene was chaotic. News helicopters hovered overhead. A crush of reporters pushed against the barricades. Marcus and Thorne walked out together, squinting in the bright afternoon sun. You okay? Marcus asked, glancing at the young officer. Thorne took a deep breath of the fresh air. I testified against a fellow officer. Half the department probably hates me. The dirty half hates you, Marcus corrected her. The good half, they respect you. You just saved them from working alongside a criminal. That is what real police work is. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. It was a plain white card with the Department of Justice seal. I spoke to ASAC Reynolds, Marcus said. The FBI is looking for a liaison for the Joint Task Force on Organized Crime. We need people who know the streets but will not be corrupted by them. People who pass the test. Thorne took the card, her eyes widening. You want me to work with the feds? I want you to keep doing what you did in that interrogation room. Marcus smiled. Think about it. He walked down the steps toward the waiting press. The reporters started shouting questions immediately. Agent Vale. Agent Vale, do you feel justice was served? Agent Vale, is it true you baited Harlan on purpose? Marcus stepped up to the thicket of microphones. He raised a hand and the crowd quieted. He looked directly into the lens of the primary news camera, his expression serious. Justice is not a feeling, Marcus said, his voice steady and projecting authority. It is an action. Bryce Harlan thought he could write his own rules because he carried a badge. Victor Russo thought he could buy his way out of trouble because he had millions. Victor Sterling thought he could outsmart the system because he had a law degree. Marcus paused, letting the silence hang heavy for a moment. They were all wrong. Today proves that there is no shadow dark enough to hide in. You can run, you can lie, and you can intimidate. But eventually, the bill comes due. And when the FBI knocks on your door, it is usually too late to ask for a refund. He stepped back from the podium, ignoring the follow-up questions. He adjusted his jacket, feeling the weight of the file in his pocket. The next case, the next target. His phone buzzed. It was a message from Lena Ross. Text. The wire is up on the South Philly docks. The cartel is moving the shipment tonight. We need a point man. Marcus typed back. On my way. He looked across the street at the diner where it had all started. Mickey's was bustling. People were laughing, eating, living their lives, completely unaware of the darkness that had almost consumed their neighborhood. That was the job. To stand in the gap, to be the shadow that hunts the wolves. Marcus turned up his collar against the wind and walked away, disappearing into the rhythm of the city, ready for the next moment that would change someone's life forever. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of Bryce Harlan. He went from being the bully of the precinct to a number in the federal system, all because he underestimated the quiet man in Booth 4. It is a brutal lesson in hard karma. Harlan lost his badge, his freedom, and his legacy, while the rookie he tried to corrupt, Officer Claire Thorne, ended up being the hero who saved the department's honor. It really makes you think how many times we judge a book by its cover. Harlan saw a hoodie and saw a criminal. He did not see the man who had the power to end his career in moments flat. I want to know what you think. Was the sentence enough for Harlan, or did he deserve more for betraying the public trust? And what about the lawyer, Sterling? Did he get off too easy? Let me know your verdict in the comments down below. I read every single one, and I love seeing your debates. If you enjoyed this roller coaster of justice, twists, and karma, please smash that like button. It helps the algorithm find more people who love these stories. And if you are new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next episode. We have a crazy story coming next week involving a cheating spouse and a hidden microphone that you do not want to miss. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, and remember, be careful who you mess with. You never know who is watching.